Hi, this is Bill Heath. I'm the superintendent of schools in Lincoln County Schools, and today is Thursday, April 30th, 2020. I'd like to give you today's update regarding our schools and the current COVID-19 crisis. First of all, just another announcement about school closures. Schools are closed through the remainder of the school year, and that means all activities, at least through May 22nd, are canceled and will not be happening. Other information I'd like to share with you today, I have three or four things in mind. First is about Lincoln County High School graduation. That's a question we get asked quite a bit. Of course, Mr. Owens and his staff are working very hard, very diligently, trying to get a graduation ceremony planned and getting one in place for our students and our parents. At this time, we do have an alternative date that has been selected for graduation. That will be June 19th. And a second alternative date of July 10th has been set, or at least reserved. So we're doing everything we can to get a date this summer to have a graduation ceremony for our seniors and for their parents and friends and relatives. Again, right now, if you'll pencil in June 19th, that's the first date that we have scheduled. If all goes well, we will have graduation that day, that night. If for some reason that date does not work, then we're going to move on to July 10th. Uh, and on both of those dates, I would ask everyone to keep in mind that it doesn't matter which date we use, uh, we will need to adhere to any regulations that are in place at that time that have been set by the state or local health departments or governmental agencies. So even though we have the dates reserved and we can tell you those dates and you can pencil them in on your calendar, there may be some stipulations as those dates approach. And of course, as that June 19th date gets a little closer, we'll know more about where we are in regard to the reopening of our schools and our society in regard to this COVID-19 crisis. All right. The second thing is the closing down of the school year. This year is different than any other year. I don't know that there were very many people who knew or believed when we left for spring break in early March that we were done for the year. So there's a lot of things that happen in closing a school year down, and a lot of things that happen in opening up a new school year. I've assigned or have given Assistant Director John Fanning those duties, and he was working closely with the principals and is in charge of the shutting down process of our schools and the reopening of our schools for next year. And with that in mind, I have some announcements that I would like to read to you, but much of the information I'm about to read will be coming out next week in much greater detail. So be looking for this. But for our pre-K through eighth grade, in order to ensure the safety of our students, parents, and our school staff, we have designated days and times to pick up your students' personal items. Our schools will be using a curbside service at each site to collect and hand out items. The pre-K 8 through 8 schools will be providing specific information to the students and families of those schools in regard to things such as medicine pickup, band instrument pickup or drop off, fundraising, etc. Those type of items. Another note, student lockers will be cleaned out by school personnel, and the items in those lockers will be placed in a bag, carry bags, with your student's name on them. We will have 2 designated days for pre-K through 8th grade pickup. On these dates, you'll be able to pick up your personal items. We'll have report cards ready, yearbooks and pictures and anything else that we have. If you have library books out or anything that your child has not turned in, they'll be able to turn them in on those days also. As of right now, we haven't selected the specific dates, but we are looking at the week that would have been the last week of the school year, which is May 21st, May 22nd, right in there. So be looking for those announcements from your schools. Be looking at our website for more information on that, particularly next week when we get that information out. In regard to students and parents who have students at Stonebridge Academy in the pre-K, we were looking at maybe a week earlier on that, but more information will be coming out to you. Lincoln County High School and Lincoln Central students, same thing. More information will be coming out regarding that same process for your schools. So, I thank you to Mr. Fanning and the principals for working on that process and the details of doing the many things we have to do to close down the school year that we're not able to do in a normal fashion this year. Next thing I'd like to talk about for a moment is you may have heard about the CARES Act. It's a federal grant, a federal law, and where federal dollars will be provided to schools through a state grant. The state has to apply to the feds. We apply to the state, and this money can be used for some very specific things. But it's in place to help us get through this crisis and to prepare for anything like this that might happen in the future, or any of the inequities that have been highlighted by this crisis this time. So I'd like to let you know that our supervisor, Renee Pryor, has been assigned to be the coordinator of the CARES Act. Lincoln County Schools, we will be receiving approximately $650,000 of CARES Act funds. Uh, Not a lot of direction has been given to us from the state or the federal government. They've changed the deadlines for when that information will be coming out, and it may be 2 or 3 more weeks before we receive information. But we do have enough information that we can begin some preliminary planning, and Ms. Pryor has headed that up for us. We, as a school system, will focus on the needs of the whole child with this money. We'll be looking at not only the academic needs, we'll be looking at the emotional and social well-being needs, and we'll be looking at the physical needs of our children as we plan and debate on ways to expend these dollars, and have a plan to submit to the state for this $650,000. 4 areas that we're actually looking at. One is a continuation of feeding, if possible. We think it's very important at this point in time that we plan to continue feeding students through the month of June. Uh, it is very important financially for the school system that we get funds for this, because after school is over on May 22nd, the funding it changes. So we are hoping that the CARES Act dollars can be appropriated. Some of that money can be appropriated to pay our staff and to keep providing these services for our students through the month of June. That's very, very important. And then on a note there, since March 23rd, which was actually 29 business days or school days ago, Lincoln County Schools has now served approximately 75,000 meals. That's amazing. Thank you. Great job to our cafeteria staff, to Ms. Brindley for leading that, and to everyone who has contributed in many ways, and to the teams at each school. You've done a great job for our students and our community there. A second thing we're looking at with this CARES Act money is we know that there are students now that have some emotional health needs. By the time school starts next year, if we start on time, students would have been out of school for 5 months, and a lot of students may have missed some services that they needed during that time. So we are planning and looking at how we can assist students with mental and emotional needs that have either been created during this time, or services that have been missed during this time. And as we reopen, we know that we'll have a much greater need in that area. So we're looking at that. A third thing is we're planning to create a digital archive system that includes lessons that we teach and things that we teach our kids. And that is in preparation for future closures, whether that be a future pandemic, which we hope and pray we don't have. It could be if we're out for several days for snow, or inclement weather, or if a student's homebound, uh, having a place to go digitally and pull up lessons to teach them and review with these students what they've missed by missing class. Nothing really replaces, or it will ever replace, the direct instruction of a good teacher. But if we can't be there, we do need that next best thing. So we want to create that digital archive of our lessons for our students, and make those available as soon as the end of the summer, if not earlier. Then on the same lines, in preparing for future things, Technology, we'll be looking at some of the inequities we have across our county in regard to who has internet access, who doesn't, how that impacts student learning in times of closures. And we'll be preparing with technology ways to address that in the future, whether that's making sure we know how to download things on the Chromebooks that we can provide to our kids to check out or take with them, or maybe even we're looking at hotspots for families during these times that their home could become internet accessible during these times, or even at hotspots in locations throughout the county, whether that's at certain spots in certain communities where we can provide that, or in our school parking lots, or even making some kind of a location available at each and every school. So, worst case scenario, a parent could drive a child to the school, and there would be a spot there, and they could get some of their work done that they're missing, and catch up, and not have such a learning gap on times of closure. So that's our CARES Act and what we're looking at there. Real quickly, I've had one other thing that's had a lot of questions, and that's the TSSAA and high school and middle school athletics. I'm just going to hit 4 or 5 bullet points here from the TSSAA and what they have put out. In regard to the sports calendar and what school-related activities are permitted during the months of May, June, and July, all member schools' athletic programs would need to continue to follow the TSSAA and the Tennessee Middle Schools Association sports calendar as written. It is not being adjusted. So coaches know what that is, and they must follow that. The TSSAA is recommending that member schools follow the state and local government, along with the CDC and local health department guidelines concerning social distancing, understanding that these guidelines will continue to change from county to county as the summer progresses. So the TSSAA is saying the sports calendar allows practice during certain times in the summer, and they will continue to allow that. But we, as locally, need to adhere to whatever guidelines are in place regarding social distancing and any other guidelines that are put in place on our students when the summer approaches. So we will get more information out from the central office as to what is allowed and what is not allowed, not just from the TSSAA standpoint, but from our local standpoint as well. Summer begins when the school system ends the regular school year, which for us was May 22nd. Up until that point, all sports are in the off season and should follow the sports calendar in regard to off season. Coaches may, of course, conduct online practice sessions as long as they follow the guidelines for their specific sport. As usual, weightlifting and conditioning, even if conducted online, must be open to all students and not required of any of them to participate. The dead period, as described by the TSSAA as a 2-week period in the summer where coaches are not permitted to have any contact with players, will remain in place. And players and coaches who have coached and played in the sports here in Tennessee, you are familiar with what that term means. So please adhere to all of those TSSAA rules. Well, that's my update for today. I want to say a thank you to all our faculty members, support staff, and teachers. You guys are doing an amazing job. And parents and students, thanks for all the patience you've given us, and to all those groups, thanks for working together during this time. It's made it a situation where Lincoln County Schools continues to shine. We have an amazing place here in Lincoln County in our school system, and Lincoln County Schools is full of amazing folks and makes that possible. So thank you to all. Stay healthy. God bless you.